Hey, Dustin Hawkinsmith here with Greg Pickle, doing some more Penn State football recruiting just a few days before National Signing Day. Penn State had a good news, bad news situation happen on Sunday. They had Dylan Rivers flip his commitment to Virginia Tech. There was grumblings all along, Greg, that he might be doing this. He's a Virginia kid. He didn't seem as solid as most of the kids in Penn State's class to Penn State, so he decommits and flips to Virginia Tech. Penn State is in on another linebacker, Ellis Brooks. There was another kid that Penn State was recruiting, Nathan Proctor. So a lot of people are trying to connect some dots here and figure out how Penn State is in this position with their linebackers. Are they set on adding a third linebacker to replace Dylan Rivers? It certainly seems so.
Yeah.
And if it isn't Ellis Brooks, who will visit this weekend coming up, which is big news in itself, then will there be a surprise name? Answer all those questions.
Yeah, I crossed Proctor off my list that I've sort of been watching. I just don't get the impression that they're really pushing for him at this point. I'm not sure why, but I just feel like that if they were, he'd be coming to campus this weekend. Instead, there hasn't been any chatter on that front. Stay tuned, maybe something will change, but I don't think you don't get the feeling Penn State's pushing for him. So I think Penn State had to have known that Dylan Rivers was very possible this was going to happen. It's terrible. I mean, obviously when you sort of bank for months that this kid's going to be in your class, and then you get into this situation 2 weeks from signing day, people get upset about it. Keep in mind, coaches do the same thing. It happens on both sides of the aisle. It's unfortunate for Penn State. I think they're set on taking a specific linebacker. I think it's Ellis Brooks. There's no question about that. A four-star kid from Richmond, Virginia. You might remember his school, Benedictine, the big-time Ohio State linebacker Jerome Baker played there before going to play for the Buckeyes. He plays, he was a four-star out of there as well. So they're known for, having linebacker recruits that are big names. Penn State joined his recruitment real late. He's visited Oregon, Northwestern, LSU, and they're going to get his last visit here, and I think they have a shot at him. I really do. Talking to his coach a little bit, I think they have a shot at this kid. They'll certainly try and knock his socks off this weekend. If it's not him, I don't think you see a surprise name, though. Maybe you watch the graduate transfer pool and see if there's any guys that graduate, after spring practice and decide to move on to somewhere else. But I don't see any other names on the board. The JUCO pool looks pretty dry as well.
Penn State has this rare selling point, I think, which is why you probably get Ellis Brooks on campus despite not really recruiting him to this point. Clearly there's no hard feelings on his end, but here's what Penn State's offering that nobody else can, is that, hey, we're this close to a national championship. You've seen what we went through with our linebackers this last season. How do you think we can play? How much better can we be with a guy like you? And I do believe that the right kind of linebacker, I thought Dylan Rivers was the right kind of linebacker. He might be the same as well. You can crack that too deep right away, and I don't think it's completely out of the question to push for a starting job either. That's where Penn State is as a contender with a big need at linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, I think you take out the scholarship table, you take out the depth chart, and say, here you go. There's only 8 guys on it. And, you say, hey, we have some injuries in the past. We have some guys that could grow into defensive linemen potentially. There's a spot for you in 2018 for sure. Because they have with the guys moving on, 2018 for sure, and probably 2017 as well. Plus, they get to bring out the Big Ten trophy ball as well. That's not going to hurt. Penn State doesn't get a kid like this on campus 2 years ago, or even last year when it's 7-6 or whatever it was coming off the Tax Slayer Bowl.
There you go. We'll see what happens. He will be visiting this weekend coming up. We'll be back next week to break down what happened on that visit and maybe a Penn State commitment. We'll see. That's Greg Pickle. I'm Dustin Hawkinsmith.